Hi, Chris Parkin here. I thought I'd do a quick tutorial on how to resize your images. So I'm going to do this in two parts. One is going to be using Lightroom and the other is going to be using Photoshop. So first of all, you'll need to have a look at the sizes that we use, and obviously you'll find this in the Camera Club rules. If you happen to be one of my students for SAT, ignore this because your sizes are different. This is just for my Camera Club, so just to avoid that confusion. Okay, so we're looking at 1620 wide and a maximum of 1080 high. So yeah, we'll go over that in a little bit more detail as we go. With Lightroom, once you've got your images sorted, then you go File and Export, and obviously you'll need to say where you're going to put the images. File setting, your image quality can go at 100. Sometimes you'd reduce that to save space, but in this case it's there's no point in worrying about that. You're actually best off using the highest quality we can get. Color space is sRGB because that's what we PSNZ use, so if you end up putting your images through later, then that's going to work for national competitions. And then excuse me, 1620 is going to be our longest edge, and in this case, for this image, the longest edge is there. And after, I want to show it in Explorer so I can show you how to check whether or not you've got your file size correct. So we'll hit export for just this one image, and while that finishes exporting, it'll come up with a bar across there, and there's our file. Now you can see by clicking on it that our dimensions are 1620 by 754. Now that's good because that 754 is our height, and we need to just double check that height isn't over the 1080. If it was, then we'd need to go and resize and make our shortest edge 1080, and that's exactly what we're going to do for this image. Some programs will allow you to resize by height and width. Lightroom just says which is going to be your longest edge. So in this case, we'll go export, and our longest edge for this one is going to be the height, so we actually need to change our number to 1080 and export, and that will make our width much shorter, and in fact you can see it here, it's 718 wide by 1080 high, so we're good for that. Okay, the odd one that you can get is the square. Now longest isn't going to matter because they're equal sides. What is going to matter is which number you use, and obviously the defining factor in this case is the height, so we need to make sure our height is no greater than 1080, and that's it. Simply hit export and you're good. And you can double check, and it's 1080 by 1080, so that's fine. The reason we use these sizings is basically you're going to be displaying these on a computer screen, a projector, and that's the maximum resolution of most projectors. There are computer screens out there now that are much higher resolution, but most clubs don't have high def projectors, and therefore we don't really worry about it. So the next one to do is I'm going to open this in Photoshop, and I'm just going to pause the video so that I don't bore you with this piece. Okay, so resizing something in Photoshop, a little bit different. I'll show you the way I tend to do it, which is File, Save for Web, and so I'll drag this box that's sitting on my spare screen, which is not very helpful. It's just thinking at the moment. Right, so this is the screen that's going to come up for you to deal with, and obviously it's going to be a JPEG. Quality is 100%, that's fine, and this is where things get a little bit different. We've got the width and the height both available to be seen, and you have a locking option here. You want to make sure that that stays locked, otherwise you're going to end up squashing your images, which is never good. So we're going to type in our width, which is 1620. Now, then at the same time you need to just double check that your height is less than the 1080, and that's fine. That would be good. If we'd written the height in as 1080, let's just try it. You'll see that the width then goes is then too big. So yeah, that's the one to watch. You're checking both at the same time rather than having to check them in Explorer or whatever you're going to use once you've actually done the export. So hit save, and then you just carry on and save it as your file. So once you've done that, obviously you need to rename your file and send them in. So yeah, hopefully that clears a few things up for people, and yeah, if you've got any further questions, just drop me a line and let me know.